Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the Samula Vaishnava devotees. We are very grateful, as always, to have your association here today. Today was supposed to be His Holiness Bhakti Charadeshna Swami Maharaj speaking, but Maharaj couldn't be here because of other engagements. Maharaj is traveling, and at the moment as we speak, Maharaj is probably on the air. And so, as usual, our revered SALIKA Prabhu volunteered to step in so that Krishna Katha from the Srimad Bhagavatam does not get interrupted. So we're grateful you are here, and SALIKA Prabhu, we are very appreciative that you could step in to speak in such a short period of notice. So, of course, SALIKA Prabhu needs no introduction. So, Shri SALIKA Prabhu, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Narayana Namaskritam Narachaivam Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jaram Udirayet Nasta Praishu Abhadrishu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhakti Bhagavati Nastiki Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of God, the Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supreme human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God that is praised. The transcendental Son is established as an irrevocable fact. So, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto. We're reading chapter 1. The text is number 23. And I guess 22 and 23. We'll be reading the canto's title is The Status Quo. So I'll read the Sanskrit text. Tasyam tritasyo sanaso manoshaha prito atagne asitasya vayu tritam sudasya gavam guhayasya yat shrada devasya sas asisive tasyam tritasyo sanaso manoshaha prito atagne asitasya vayu tritam sudasasya gavam guhasyaha Yashrada Deva Siva. We'll read the translation for text number 22. On the bank of the river Sarasvati, there were 11 places of pilgrimage, namely Trita, Usana, Manu, Pritu, Agni, Asita, Vayu, Sudasa, Go, Guha, and Strada Deva. Vidura visited all of them and duly performed rituals. So we go to text number 23. Ayani Seadivja Deva Deva Kritani Nanat Yatanani Vishnu Pratyanga Mukyan Kitamandirani Yat Darsanat Krishnam Anusmaranti Ayani Seadivja Deva Deva Kritani Nana Yatanani Vishnu Pratyanga Mukyam Kitamandirani Yad Sanat Krishnam Anusmaranti Anyani Seadvija Deva Deva Kritani Nana Yatanani Vishnu Pratyanga Mukyam Kitamandirani Yadda Sanat Krishnam Anusmaranti. Word for word translation. Anyani, others. Cha, also. Iha, here. Dvija Deva, by the great sages. Deva, the demigods. Kritanihi, established by. Nanaha, various. Anyatanani, various forms. Vishnu, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prati, each and every. Angaha, part. Mukhyaha, the chief. Ankitaha, marked. Mandirani, temples. Yat, wish. Dasanahat, by seeing from a distance. Krishna, the original personality of Godhead. Anusmaranti, constantly remembers. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, Silabai Charanaravinda. Esi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Patita Pavanjaga Guru Shri of the Worship of Prabhupada Ki Jai. There were also many other temples of various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, established by great sages and demigods. These temples were marked with the chief emblems of the Lord, and they reminded one always of the original personality of God. Lord Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Humanity is divided into 4 social orders of life and 4 spiritual divisions, applying to each and every sorry for that interruption. Sorry, I'll take the purport from the beginning again. Human society is divided into 4 social orders of life and 4 spiritual divisions, applying to each and every individual person. The system is called Varna Ashram Dharma and has already been discussed in many places in this great literature. The sages or persons who completely devoted themselves to the spiritual upliftment of the entire human society were known as Divija Deva, the best among the twice born. The denizens of superior planets from the moon planet and upwards were known as Devas. Both the Dvija Devas and the Devas always established temples of Lord Vishnu in its various forms, such as Govinda, Madhusudan, Nrisimha, Madhava, Keshava, Narayan, Padmanabha, Parthasarati, and many others. The Lord expands himself in innumerable forms, but all of them are not different from one another. Lord Vishnu has 4 arms, and each arm holds a particular item, either a conch shell, wheel, club, or lotus flower. Of these 4 emblems, the chakra or wheel is the chief. Lord Krishna, being the original Vishnu form, has only one emblem, namely the wheel, and therefore he is sometimes called the Chakri. The Lord's chakra is a symbol of the power by which the Lord controls the whole manifestation. The tops of Vishnu temples are marked with the symbol of the wheel, so that people may have their chance to see the symbol from a very long distance, and at once remember Lord Krishna. The purpose of building very high temple is to give people a chance to see them from a distant place. This system is carried on in India whenever a new temple is constructed, and it appears that it is coming down from a time before recorded history. The foolish propaganda by atheists that temples were constructed only in later days is refuted here, because Vidura visited these temples at least 5,000 years ago, and the temples of Vishnu were in existence long before Vidura visited. The great sages and demigods never established statues of men or demigods, but they established temples of Vishnu for the benefit of common men. to raise them to the platform of God consciousness. Omagyanam timiram dasya Gyanam shalakaya Shaksho militam jena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Divam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganan Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantara Dakanta Nama Austute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangira Devin Davaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shruti Devi Pranamamin Hari Priye Mokankarote Bacharam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yakripatam Aham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Vanchakarpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Evaschaha Patitanam Pavatnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srinivasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam class Ki Jai. So once again, we read the text. There was also many other temples of various forms of the Supreme Personality of God at Vishnu, established by great sages and demigods. These temples were marked with the chief emblems of the Lord, and they reminded one always of the original personality of God, Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees of the Lord, please, once again, I offer my respectful obeisances unto all of you. Please, we request for your permission to be able to serve the mission of Sri Guru and Krishna in rendering this service of speaking on making comments on the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is said to be the light for the dense dark age of Kali. The whole of the material world is a dark place. And without the light of the sun, which is the eye of the Lord, or the words of the Lord in the forms of the scriptures, no one can navigate within this ocean called material world. So we pray that by your mercy and the mercy of the previous acharyas, we might be able to render service in such a way that devotees will be pleased and it will ultimately satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as been introduced initially, we're standing in again once again for their senior God brother, His Holiness Bhakti Sharudeshna Swami, who is currently traveling, who is actually supposed to be speaking today. So we pray that by his mercy, we can represent him in a way that will be satisfying to the devotees. So we are discussing from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first chapter, and text number 22 to 23 is what we're talking about today. And these two verses are talking about the pilgrimage journey of Edwidja Brahmi activities. It's talking about a great personality, Bhakta Vidura. And the narration is given by Sri Sukadeva Goswami, retold by Sutta Goswami. So in this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, a very important aspect of the Vedic scripture is being focused on. According to this previous acharyas, when we talk about the spiritual part or the journey of devotion or religious practices, there are several rituals, regulations, practices that the living entities and even the higher living entities, they follow in the name of religiosity or spirituality. And all of these rituals, ceremonies, austerities, charities, and whatever engagement are all done to achieve only one purpose. According to the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna told Arjuna in a very famous verse, chapter 15, text number 15, where he says that Sarvasya cha amriti sani vishto mata smriti gyanam apo anam chaha vedas chai sarvaham eva vidyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. Krishna said, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness comes. And by all the Vedas, I am to be known. And indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. This verse explains the significance of what we are reading here today in this part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We've heard the story of Vidura and what led to Vidura leaving the house on a pilgrimage. According to the Vedic injunction, one is meant to engage in a particular activity according to the time, place, and circumstances. Vidura was living in the kingdom of the Kuru dynasty as the advisor of Dhritarashtra. And he was the advisor to the king, Dhritarashtra, but the king was completely deaf. Not only deaf, he was also blind, according to the descriptions of that narration in the Mahabharata. And Vidura exhibited the qualities of a practitioner of spirituality. Sometimes, in modern times, we see that people want to impose spiritual knowledge. And because they want to do that for their own selfish interest, they give a kind of threat or fear to the conditioned soul to instigate them to act in a particular way. This is not religiosity. This is not spirituality. Spirituality is that activity that is inspired by the scriptural injunction. Any activity, whether in private, material, or spiritual life, that is not guided by the scriptures is considered to be a disturbance to the practitioner and to anyone and everyone around, and even the environment. So for the purpose of this, Lord Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 13, he gave another very interesting assertion to express the importance of the division of human society. Lord Krishna says in that text that Chato vaniam maya shistan guna karma vibagasa. Tasia kata am api maham vidi akataram avyayam. Lord Krishna said that according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me, Krishna. And although I'm the creator of this system, you should know that I'm yet the non-dual being unchangeable. So Krishna is emphasizing here, thank you, sorry. Krishna is emphasizing here the importance of regulations and the basis for that regulated lifestyle. To have a kind of life that depicts the purpose for which life in itself is meant for. Lord Krishna says, I created the four social orders of spiritual and social orders of life to create regulations. In our modern day today, the whole world is suffering like anything. The pain that the living entity in this age are going through cannot be expressed by anyone in completeness. Whether it is in religious life, whether it is in so-called material life, in whatever life that exists in this age, presently, everyone is suffering like anything. And why are they suffering? They all are suffering because the purpose for which life in itself and the guide for life in itself is being jettisoned by the human race. And because humanity has completely deviated themselves from the purpose for which life itself exists, and for the purpose or guidelines for that life itself, so everything is ufty-tufty, and everyone is suffering immensely. Vidura is giving an exemplary lifestyle here. In the Kuru dynasty, there is a disagreement in the family, and everyone is agitated, wanting to fight. And we read in the last two verses, they went to fight and killed themselves, which is what is prominent, permeating the world today. Everybody is so eager, they're so passionate, they want to kill others. But Vidura is showing the difference from what a modern man does. The moment there is any disagreement, a modern man wants to kill. The most important aspect, worst part of it is this, that the modern man, even when he's not directly involved in a catastrophe, in a quarrel, immediately he picks this side or that side. In fact, most of the world today are in turmoil because right from the individual level to the family level, to the community level, to the state level, to national level, to global level, there is so much of catastrophe because somebody is trying to support somebody else's cause, forgetting his own course of life. And you hear China is supporting Russia, Russia is supporting Ukraine, and in this way, they create all kinds of demoniac disturbances on the society. Vidura is showing a different path. Because why? Vidura is following the injunctions as given by the Lord. Chateau Vaniyamaya is following the regulative principles. This is not even spirituality. For one who is embodied, for one who has taken this human body form of life, just like a machine has no usefulness without a manual. Human life in itself is meaningful only when it has a guide. And the world today is deviating from guidelines. Nobody wants to be guided by anything. They wanted to be guided by their mind, senses, and intelligence. And this is where the problem lies. So there are several The real measure of intelligence is the action. Excuse me. Just a minute, I don't know. I'm coughing. Oh, sorry. Think I need it. Sorry. A minute. Sorry for the breaking transmission. This is exactly what we're talking about. Regulation is not there for modern man. And therefore, the modern man is suffering like anything. Why is he suffering? Because he refuses to follow the guideline as given. Lord Krishna said, Aham sarva siyama prabhava mata sarva pravatate. Everything is emanating from me. And he said, in the very scripture, he said, Isava siya idam sarva yat kinshat dagatia jagat. Tena tiak tena bunjita magrido kaswasvi dana. Everything within the universe is owned and controlled by me. It is my property. Everything is my property. And therefore, I have given the guide. An intelligent person should know what is to be taken. So Vidura here is laying a great example. He knows the purpose behind the creation. As mentioned in the earlier verse we quoted, Savasya, Ridi Sani Visto, Lord Krishna, he has a purpose behind the very scriptures. He has a purpose behind the manifestation, all of his manifestation. And all of them is embedded in only one thing: to give satisfaction to himself. So therefore, he created the four social orders of life, and he gives regulations for those who are intelligent to follow. And here, it is mentioned in the verse that we're reading today. Vidura, he left the home and he went on pilgrimage. And what is the significance of that? That brings out the importance of the temples, holy places. For one who finds himself in a such similar situation. And the purpose that Prabhupada is emphasizing here, Prabhupada said that the human society is divided into four social orders of life and four spiritual divisions applying to each and every one. But Prabhupada says, when he goes to and said, the denizens of superior planets from the moon planet and upward were known as devas. Prabhupada is describing. And they said, what they do, both the Dvijas and the devas always establishes temples of Lord Vishnu in his various forms, such as Govinda, Madhusudan, and many other forms of Krishna. Why is Krishna doing that? Because for every manifestation on the earth planet, Krishna has given an establishment of what is required. So Vidura is visiting all the holy places, holy dams. For what purpose? Because, as Lord Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, a man of learned, a wise learned sage is not interested in the activities of a materialistic minded person. And the significance of these holy places are given here in the purport by Srila Prabhupada to attract the living entities, to attract the souls back to the original purpose. So the verse that we're discussing today is emphasizing only one thing, that the ultimate purpose of human life is to come to that platform whereby it becomes attracted to the path that leads to the supreme personality of God, which is the ultimate goal of human life. As Krishna says in that 15:15 last sentence, that he is the creator, he is the speaker, he is the writer, he is the compiler of the very scriptures, and of the scriptures he is to be known. So the four social orders and spiritual orders of life that guide living entities towards the path of becoming real human beings are meant to direct the focus of the living entities to the human form of life, on which platform where it can be able to engage in the real duties of human life. And this real human life begins when one comes to act on the basis of these instructions as given in the 4:13 of the Bhagavad Gita. If you feel the four social orders of life, these four social and spiritual orders of life, Prabhupada said, there has been a lot of elaborate discussions of that in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the focus in this chapter or in this purport is not meant to go deep into those aspects, but to make us understand that every aspect of the Lord's creation is geared towards only one purpose. And what is that purpose? To be able for man to raise the humanity to the platform of God consciousness. In other words, every activities of humanity, of human existence that does not lead to the path of God consciousness is a mere waste of time. And the purpose Prabhupada mentioned and in the text, the chief among all of the instrument that is carried by the Lord, the chakra. Prabhupada explained that the Lord is called Chakri because he carries the chakra. And that is why most in the Vedic tradition, in most of the temples, but not only in the Vedic tradition, when you look at the churches, when you look at the mosque, you will see that on top of the church, although if you ask a layman, if you ask an ordinary person why there is that sign on the church door, what is the significance of the sign on the mosque, they don't understand. Because today, going to the church, going to the temple, going to the mosque, people are so enamored with the external aspect of religious life that they forget the purpose, the goal. You can see someone who is so vast, whether it's a Christian or a Muslim or Hindu or Vaishnava, they can quote in the early days when we joined devotional life. It was a very big tradition. You see some devotees, most of them are not there today. I can't find them. I don't know where they are now. Maybe they've taken birth in another place. Some of them have gone to some other different environment. It is very fashionable. There are some devotees that could recite 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. But today, not only that they are not in devotional service, we don't even hear about them any longer. So, in devotional path, the essence of everything is not about what we're doing presently, but the focus where we're going about it. One can recite all of the Vedic mantras. One may do a nice kirtan, it become a big kirtaniya, One can become a good reciter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. One can be any of these. There are those who every year must go to Kartik in India. They will visit the holy places. There are devotees who, by virtue of their passion for traveling, have visited almost all of the temples in India. But here in this verse, we've been made to understand the purpose of all of this is not just to visit, is to arouse the God consciousness in the living entities. In other words, any of these activities in the path of devotional service as given by the Lord himself in the scriptures that does not arouse loving sentiment towards the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is just a mere waste of time. Sometimes a question is raised. Why is it that a devotee, after practicing so many years in the path of devotion, or one is very religiously addicted, he performs all kinds of rituals, but his character is completely opposite of what he engages in? It is because the purpose for the good, for what those activities are meant for is lost. So in the purport to the text we're reading today, Prabhupada emphasized by giving examples that Prabhupada mentions something here, that sometimes some people say that the temples are recent activities. But according to history, Vidura, here 5,000 years ago, was written the only various temples of India. So in other words, the part of bhakti or devotion or the part of religiosity has existed as long as the ancient time. That is why Prabhupada often says that who can put a date to the Vedic tradition? No one. But the most important thing is that what do we do with those activities of devotion? It does not really matter whether one is a Brahmana, a Vaishya, a Kshatriya, a Shudra, a Brahmachari, a Grihastha, Vanaprastha, or a Sannyasi. The ultimate goal of all engagement, there's a beautiful verse that says, that is like a prostitute, that he who goes to the holy places of pilgrimage but not to hear the transcendental sound vibration about the names, glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and associate with those persons that describe those glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vidura, we see in this verse, is visiting all these holy places. And while he is visiting, he would eventually see and then ask questions from Maitreya Muni. Now he's traveling. Then eventually he will hear. This is the example of what devotional service path is supposed to be. The great sages, the Dvija Devas, as described in this text, their activities, their movements are all meant for only one purpose: to arouse the loving sentiment of the living entities towards the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as we engage in devotional service, and that's why it is said that one does not need an X-ray or a third party to tell if one is practicing Krishna consciousness. The test is available to everyone. It is not that I've been in Krishna consciousness for 20 years, for 50 years, for 30 years, for 10 years. It is about, am I developing the loving sentiment? Am I developing my God consciousness? This is the purpose. We read, we hear, we attend the Bhagavatam class. We hear various speakers. Before the COVID-19, there was not much opportunity to hear from several great speakers of Srimad Bhagavatam. Materially, COVID-19 was a very kind of a destructive pandemic situation, but it was a fortune for the devotees, because for every engagement, for every activity, for every manifestation of the Lord that happens or manifests in the world, the devotee takes advantage. And one such is the use of the Zoom platform that we are on today. A devotee of the Lord, whatever he sees in creation, not only those significant emblems or items of devotion, but anything and everything that he comes in contact with, that he perceives, that he sees, he relates it to developing his loving sentiment for the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is what we call Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, they've taught by their lifestyle. Few days ago, we remembering the disappearance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by our today standard of calculation, is a kami. Because he was a Grihastha, he was a working man. He was a chief judge. But he's described as the seventh Goswami. And as we go in our devotional life, history will tell who Sahadev is, who Salika Das is. And it is not just about, but how much devoted, how much Krishna conscious we are becoming. As we hear on a daily basis the Srimad Bhagavatam, as we speak the Srimad Bhagavatam, as we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the Dharma of the age, does it arouse the Krishna within us? The very scriptures is not an illusory part. It's not a speculative part. It is said that in this Krishna consciousness, if one practices Krishna consciousness judiciously, as it is given by the acharyas, following the footsteps of Vidura and the great Dvija Devas, Krishna says he can have an handshake with him. There are several stories of great personalities. The 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswamis. We have several historical stories of great personalities who have used their life to demonstrate how human life is meant for only one purpose: to develop the taste for loving sentiment to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as we meditate on the verse of today, as narrated here, that Vidura was visiting holy places, different temples of different various forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead established by the great sages and demigods. He was taking advantage of those temples that are marked with the chief emblems of the Lord. And most importantly, they are reminded one always of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the purpose of what this verse is all about. In other words, it is to increase the smaranam. One will wonder, why do we have to hear about Vidura, personalities who appeared 5,000 years ago? Why do we have to hear the stories of Mahabharata? Why do we have to give our time 2 hours every day to listening to Srimad Bhagavatam? Only one purpose. And that purpose is to improve this remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anything short of that is a waste of time. And it increases the speed of one going to Narake Loka, or the hellish planet. And the choice is ours. We can choose to follow this path of Vidura and the Deva Dvija, who has created all these great Srila Prabhupada has given. Prabhupada said his temples created are oases in the desert. The Bhagavatam class that Prabhupada instituted, all of the activities of Krishna consciousness given by Srila Prabhupada are geared towards only one purpose, just to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His chakra, his 400 forms, his different forms in various incarnations, Padmanabha, Varaha, Nisimha, and many other incarnations, all of the manifestations of the Lord, all his pastimes, all his activities, all the manifestation of his devotees on this earth planet are all for only one purpose, remembrance of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he made that very easy in this age. And there we'll round up this discussion. Arai Nam, Arai Nam. Arai Nam Eva Kevalam. Hello, nasty. Eva nasty. Eva nasty gati. And you tell that in this age, the ultimate only way by which one can be saved from all of the calamities of the material world is just to hear about the names, glories, and pastimes of the Lord. And even one does not have affinity, at least want to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That is the ultimate goal of human life. So whatever we do, whatever we eat, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text number 27, whatever we eat, whatever we give, whatever we hear, whatever we talked about, it should be done in Krishna consciousness to remind us of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. So I will stop here and give opportunity for devotees to give their comments, contributions, corrections, as the case. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, His Grace Salika Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
for such a short notice of stepping in and speaking such beautifully and wonderfully. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you would want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute, to speak, to share. Shri Salika, if I may put the verse back on the screen, let me see. Yeah. I'd like to ask a question from the purport. Srila Prabhupada is stating, which you also highlighted, that Lord Vishnu has 4 hands, and each hand holds a particular item. Either a conch shell, 1, wheel, 2, club, 3, or the lotus flower, 4. Of these 4 emblems, the chakra or wheel is the chief. Lord Krishna, being the original Vishnu form, has only 1 emblem, namely the wheel, and therefore he is sometimes called the Chakri. The Lord's chakra is the symbol of the power by which the Lord controls the whole manifestation. So you were describing like in churches you see like the steeple on top of the church building. The mosques you see they assemble the half moon and the disk. In Hindu temples, you see the chakra. So these are symbols of the Lord. Lord Vishnu, like it's explained here, we see him with these four emblems in his hand. And Srila Prabhupada is saying that Lord Vishnu holds four, Lord Krishna holds one. But I do not know if anybody has seen Krishna with the chakra in his hand before. We only see Krishna with flute. So if you may explain, if you may shed a little bit light, I should say, on what Prabhupada is telling us here. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. A very interesting question. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna told Arjuna that I'm not manifested to anyone and everyone. And I'm not compelled in 725. Maybe you can bring that verse up. I'm not compelled. Why? Because Krishna is Swarat, independent, completely independent. And therefore, because it's not conditioned, it's not mandated to do as we desire or so wish. Naham prakasa sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudoyam nabrijanati lokomam ajam avyayam. Let's read the translation. I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I'm the unborn and infallible. So Krishna is the carrier. All the Vishnu forms are coming from him, like Sukadev Goswami told us. Ete chamsam kalam pumcham Krishna stu Bhagavan swayam. Vyakulam. All these forms of Vishnu that are manifested unlimitedly, they're all manifesting from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because Krishna is Swarat, is completely independent, is not under the influence of anybody's control, he decides to manifest. When he appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, no one could see who he was. He was just like an ordinary devotee, but to his devotee, he manifested the Chadbhujan. He showed himself as Krishna, as a sannyasi, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and as Lord Ramachandra carrying the arrow. So the ability to see Krishna's features is dependent only on Krishna, not on anybody's austerity, devotion, power, or any what have you. So Krishna decides to manifest, and what does he look for? As he told Arjuna, he said, you can only see me as I'm standing before you, as in my two-handed form, only by bhakti. And that was the prerogative why Krishna showed the universal form to Arjuna. Arjuna told Krishna, he said, if you so feel will, if you think I'm qualified or I deserve it, let me see that your universal form. And Krishna manifested. He said, but first, I will give you the high so that you can see this vision of mine that no one has ever seen before you. So the features of the Lord are manifested eternally, but only manifested to individuals depending on their punya karma, on their piety, on their bhakti. So Krishna is always the carrier of the chakra, and that purpose, as Prabhupada said, is called chakri. But that is chakra is only manifested according to his own independent will. When Sisupal invoke the chakra by his offensive nature. Krishna manifested the chakra to cut off his head. And when Ambarish Maharaj was offended by Dhruva Samuni, that devotion of Ambarish involved the chakra, and Dhruva Samuni was running helter-skelter. So the chakra of the Lord is only manifested by the will of the Lord and the devotion of his devotees. But according to the Vedic scriptures, because it's their apparition, they cannot be faulted. They are completely beyond both manifested and unmanifested material world, because they're transcendental part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of God himself. So he manifests them whenever there is a need, according to the situation. So Krishna is always carrying his chakra. But then, whenever the need arises, he manifests those chakras. And as two examples was when Shupal became very inimical to the Lord. So one can invoke the chakra of the Lord, either by becoming whimsical so that Krishna kills him, or he becomes so devoted that Krishna invoked the chakra to kill the devotee's enemy. But in any case, Krishna will bring out that chakra dependent only on the bhakti, devotion of his devotees. And he never is compelled to manifest, to show it at any time. But when the need arises, he manifests them. I don't know whether that answers your question properly.
Yeah, I mean, it does. It does, except that you're saying that even though Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Lord, that he chooses to allow everybody to know what he has in his lotus hands. But Krishna doesn't. He reveals to whom he wants to reveal to. If I understood what you're saying, because Lord Krishna has the chakra in his hand, as Prabhupada is saying. But like I was saying, I don't know. I haven't seen any photo of Krishna with the chakra, except one time, one particular photo where Krishna invoked the chakra. And also we hear about when Arjuna gave that terrible vow that he was going to protect the dying children of the Brahmana from death, and he couldn't, and so he was going to enter into fire to kill himself. Then Krishna said, you know, you don't have to do that. So we read that Lord Krishna used the chakra to pave way to go to where this soul was hidden. But I understand what you're saying, that it's there, but we don't see it as commonly with that of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, things like that.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And even the Vishnu forms, because they are directly relating to the material world, they are manifested in forms of the Lord to relate with the material world. So it becomes easy for us to see them, because the one wants us to see them. So he manifests them out of his free will for the purpose of officially, according to how it is said, to communicate, to review, to reward, and to punish accordingly. So they are administrative forms of the Lord, in a sense, if you want to use that word. These Vishnu forms are administrative form of the Lord. They are manifested for the purpose of fulfilling some mission. But the Lord has no work attached to him. He has no duty to perform. So therefore, he decides to manifest or not manifest it. But because these Vishnu forms needs to engage in certain activities as designed by the Lord himself, so they manifest so that we can recognize them when they manifest for that particular purpose which they are meant to manifest. And so there are unlimited forms of vision, but they are all manifested for a particular purpose, and therefore to relate based on what they are meant to. So they manifest those forms and easily relate to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the further explanation. Madhavan Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, all glory unto your feet, all glory to assembly of the body. So I just want to make a little bit contribution to this our discussion about Krishna carrying chakra. Krishna, being the supreme enjoyer, he has no responsibility. It's just he carries flutes and it's always dancing. And even in this our community or the Yoruba community, sometimes we have some great warriors. They manifest these different weapons. They don't carry it, but when they need it, they just raise their hands, the thing appears, and they use it. So I can see it as an extraordinary power also. Extraordinary ability, prowess. But Krishna being a supreme enjoyer, he has nothing to do. He has no care, no responsibility. He's just supreme enjoyer, enjoys himself. So that's just which I want to. So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madhavan Prabhu. Shri Salika Prabhu, if I may ask another question from the same purport. Shri Prabhupada, let me see if I can put it up here. Shri Prabhupada states that the sages or persons who completely devoted themselves to the spiritual upliftment of the entire human society were known as Dvija Deva, the best amongst the twice born. The denizens of superior planets, from the moon planet and upwards, were known as Devas. Both the Devas and Dvija Devas, both the Dvija Devas and the Devas always established temples of Lord Vishnu in its various forms. Now, my question is Srila Prabhupada saying that these Dvija Devas on this earth planet established temples of Lord Vishnu in its various forms, and the Devas in their world also established temples of Lord Vishnu in its various forms. Or these Devas sometimes also come on earth to establish temples of Lord Vishnu in its various forms. And if there is such, do we know of a temple that is attributed to a particular demigod establishing that? I mean, we hear like the pyramids of Egypt. There were higher beings involved in constructing the pyramids. So it's just wanting to know if there is any known temple on this earth planet that was constructed by a demigod.
Thank you very much, Sade. I'm not an historian. And I don't think I'm qualified to be able to explain the historical background of most of the temples that but I can explain something that is going to resonate with what you want to hear. In several purports in the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada constantly explain that in this material world, there are two types of living entities, the demigod and the the demon, or the devotees or the non-devotees. So there is no one who has the capacity by his material qualification to establish any temples. So by Prabhupada's justification, we can say that all those devotees who have become instrumental to establishing the temples, even in our modern times, are devas. And that also can be confirmed by the scriptures, because it is said that those who have engaged in devotional paths and are unsuccessful, sometimes maybe due to some little endeavor, they go to the higher planetary systems to enjoy the reward of their piety, and they come back to this life and they are given opportunity to start again in a very fortunate environment where they can continue their devotional life. So therefore, we can say that based on all of this and many other quotes that Prabhupada gave us, that it is not an ordinary human being that can build any temple. For one to be able to build any temple, it means that he is kind of an empowerment. And such an empowerment doesn't come to an ordinary person. Now, there are demigods. Someone might, the question might be that, okay, what about those devotees who have established a big temple and they fell down from our devotional standard, from our perception? It does not really matter. Because for the purpose of the Lord's pastime, we see the story. Even Devavrata, grandfather Bhishma Dev himself, the story. He was a demigod, but he came in here. But when it comes to our own level of platform, based on Srila Prabhupada's purports, we can conveniently say that only those who are empowered by the Lord are able to establish any temple. Now, how their individual lives are, maybe what we may not be able to understand. But from my understanding of Srila Prabhupada's explanation, is based on what he has given in several purports, it is only those who have been empowered or are coming from that higher level of beings are able to establish temples of the Lord. And sometimes Srila Prabhupada even says that if you know who is who in the Hare Krishna movement, you will faint. And I can resonate. When I joined devotional service, I was coming from the path of clairvoyancy, on the path of Christianity, where clairvoyancy was celebrated. So I see a lot of vision. I don't know what the reason why Krishna decided to take most of them off me now. Maybe they're going to become a distraction. But when I joined devotional service newly, an average person I see in the temple during the kirtan, their legs are not touching the ground. And I asked my Guru Maharaj, and when I joined devotional service, when I joined the temple, after some few years, I wasn't longer seeing that. Then I asked like Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Maharaj, I said, Srila Krishna Pad, when I joined the movement, I see practically all of the devotees, almost all of the devotees. Only few I see they are on the ground, but almost all of the devotees, I see that they are levitating. They are not, their legs are not touching the ground. And Gurudev answered me that question in 3 ways. He said, 1, when Krishna wants to draw you near, he gives you, according to your swabhava or past activity, he gives you a particular kind of motivation. And because you're coming from the path of tradition where you could foresee things beyond the normal, Krishna is showing you that these personalities here are not just ordinary beings. But you're not seeing it again now could be either of the three things. Is either you are become less attentive in your devotional service. So Krishna is not allowing you to see. But sometimes Krishna also will take those visions away just to be able to allow you to concentrate on the most important thing in your devotional life. And in some cases, those visions no longer manifest because they are no longer needed. Just like when one graduates from primary school to secondary school, you no longer need the matchbox to count 1, 2, 3 when he wants to add 5 plus 5. While he was in the primary school, he needed those sticks to count figures together. But when he gets to secondary school, he doesn't need that again. So sometimes Krishna feels that you no longer need it. So it's not showing you all of those things because you necessarily doesn't need them any longer. So based on this personal life experience, based on the scriptural experience, based on what Prabhupada has said, I can categorically say that those temples that you see, and for Prabhupada to describe them as an oasis in a desert, are not built by ordinary beings. They are demigods. That's my realization and understanding. I don't know whether it touches your... I was not hearing you, sorry.
Hare Krishna, sorry. I didn't realize I was muted.
Okay.
Actually, I had heard from a couple of devotees some time ago. I just don't remember the name of the temple. I don't know whether it was devoted or from a documentary, but there are a couple temples that is historically understood to have not been built by human hands, that devas from the higher planets came to build it. But unlike we have lots of factual history of self-manifested deities. Like, I haven't been there before, but a very good friend of mine shared this with me. He's been there and actually seen it with his own eyes. There is a temple in India called Yogananda Lakshmi Nrsimha Temple. Yogananda Lakshmi Nrsimha Temple, where they say that this deity of Lord Nrsimhadev was self-manifested. And we all know how deities, their texture feels like when we touch them. But this particular deity of Nrsimhadev, when you touch him, he feels just like a human skin. And the hair on his skin is just like human also. It's self-manifested. But I don't know if Srimad Bharata Prabhu, I think I don't remember, but I think Srimad Bharata Prabhu had shared with me some time ago a temple that was built by demigods. I'm not sure. I think it was Srimad Bharata Prabhu, but it's okay. Just for devotees to ponder about that. If there is such a temple, what is it? Any devotee with something to ask or share?
Yeah, thank you. Before you go, Sir Dave,
Yeah.
the fact is this, that I don't just want to speculate. There are several temples that I've read several stories, but I can't pick up anyone right away.
Yeah.
There are several temples, and maybe because of, if I remember before we close this, I can reference some few temples like that. They were not built by just an ordinary personalities.
Yeah.
Or ordinary living entities. They are built by the Lord. But I was answering your question from the context of a layman and then making sure that I'm not going to be speculating. But the fact is that there are several temples. There are several of them. Even outside of India, in Bali, there is a particular temple in Bali that I have had that was not, when the history behind that temple indicates that that temple was established by not ordinary living entity. But there are several temples like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You're right.
you're right.
Okay, so is anyone else with something to ask or share before we bring this to a close? Dr. Hassan, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace.
Hare Krishna.
I wanted to, please, can you accept my humble obeisances?
Hare
All goes
Krishna.
to Gurudev, all goes to Krishna Prabhupada, and all goes to the Assembly devotees. I wanted to ask something, but maybe if we bring the class to an end, if it's okay.
Okay. All right. I just remembered that Her Grace Gayatri Devi, who is here today, 3 days ago was her birthday. So we want to formally wish her a very wonderful Krishna consciousness birthday. So, Mother Gayatri Devi, belated happy birthday to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
May you continue to melt and absorb yourself in the ocean of Krishna consciousness, no matter what, whether in the rain or in the sun, in the wind, no matter what. And may you never forget Guru and Krishna. May
Thank you
you
so much,
remember
Prabhuji.
Guru and Krishna.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So grateful to have all of you as my godfathers and brothers and sisters and mothers. I'm so grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. We are grateful to have you as a little sister as well.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So with that being said, I believe we will bring the class to a close. And Salika Prabhu, we thank you so much for stepping in absence of His Holiness Bhakti Charadeshna Swami Maharaj. It seems Harichakra Prabhu has something to share. Please, you may unmute Harichakra Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Salika Prabhu, thank you very much
Hare
for,
Krishna.
for stepping in and giving us all this detailed information. Yeah, in your deliberation, you kept emphasizing that the purpose of Krishna revealing the scripture, the purpose of everything that Krishna made manifest is for us to remember Him, for us to become conscious of Him, Krishna. We also realize that even in this world, the world today, everything you do must have a purpose. Otherwise, that thing will never be successful if you don't have a purpose. Like if you go to school and they teach you 1 + 1, the 1 + 1 they are teaching you, you can decide to memorize the answer as 2. But the real purpose is for you to use that 1 + 1, apply it in your everyday life. So that if you go to the store and you are buying something, then you know, if I buy 1 of this, I buy 1 of that, it becomes 2 of it. So you don't just learn 1 + 1 in school and that is it. So can you go further to explain to us, because since the purpose of everything that Krishna has made manifest is for us to remember Krishna, then does it really matter what name you call yourself? Does it really matter because you were sharing that it doesn't matter whether you will call yourself a brahmachari, a grihastha, what do we call it, a vanapras, and it doesn't matter whether you call yourself whatever, a kshatriya, a shudra, or brahmana, or whatever you call yourself. But the ultimate purpose is for you to be reminded of the Lord. So yeah, that actually is something that really touches the heart. That so can you give us a little more what do we call it, push, or a little more information about how we have to be very conscious and make sure that every single step we take, we should be able to focus on the purpose with which we are taking that step.
I was in a forum recently. We went for an engagement. So there were 6 of us on each table, and we were different speakers brought to speak on different subject matters. So on our particular table, there were 5 of us, we not complete 6. And then 2 of the participants who were sitting together with me started having some conversation. And the conversation was around Coke. I was sitting and I was listening to the 2 of them. And one of them was saying that, you know, one thing I hate in modern times when I come to occasions like this is someone giving me Coke in plastic. I hate it. It irritates me. I feel like throwing it on the face of the person that gives me. But because I'm a visitor, so I can't do anything. Nobody dare does that to me. In fact, I will never go close to it to buy it or somebody give it to me. Say, but I don't know what I will do here. I feel like throwing it away. So the other person sitting, they were conversing together, say, but you can choose not to drink. And in the end, does it really matter if you are Coke inside bottle or plastic or can? It's the same Coke. And the guy was arguing. He said, no, don't say this. In fact, you make me get angry if you continue to speak like this. I'm just telling you, it is demeaning to me. I like Coke like anything, but it's one drink that I like. But when somebody puts it inside plastic, it just irritates me. And they have made it so crazy now that all different kinds of plastic, they put this Coke inside. So I was listening. I was just listening to the 2 of them conversing, and they continued this conversation for a long time. So after a long time, so I told them, I said, well, can I ask you a question? I was asking the person that was complaining. I said, do you really like Coke at all? Do you really like Coke? He said, yes, I love Coke. I love the drink, Coke, very much. Even though now the taste is not like before, but I love drinking Coke. But I just ate it. In fact, it just boils my mind when somebody gives it to me. And I asked him, I said, okay, if you love Coke so much like that, as you just described to your friend, and you're telling me now also, I said, this same Coke, if I turn it now, there is a glass in my front. Well, if I turn the Coke inside this glass, will you drink it or you still not drink? He said, no, I will drink it immediately. He said, they should have better maybe even come and serve us inside glass, not give us bottle. But something just makes me lose it when I see that. Why am I telling this story? The story is to explain the fact that sometimes our understanding of a particular subject or item or things has a great role to play in what on how we relate to that particular thing. In the beginning of the verse, I quoted the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 13, where Krishna says, Shatovanyam Mayasristam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the first divisions of human society are created by me. What is the purpose? Krishna has given for the purpose of organization, Vaishya, Sudra, Brahmana, but the essence of all of this is only one purpose: to develop affinity, attraction, to remember the Lord. So, if we say that the challenge that most often times that happens in our life is that, and it's like Gurudev said something very interesting before he leaves us in his physical pastimes. One of the very few last time he came, before the last time he came, he was talking to all of his leaders. And he was telling us, he said, all of you who are temple president, raise up your hands. And we all raise up our hands. And he said, all of those who are Bhaktas, raise up your hand. And none of us raise up our hands because in this assembly, we are leaders, we are all temple presidents, and none of us will raise up their hands. So Gurudev was laughing. Said, if you all are to leave your body now, you all have to take birth again because you have failed the most important lesson of life. Because the whole essence of being here is to become a Bhakta. But you all have forgotten that because you have identified with this physical body and the things associated with the body. You have lost the real focus. So in the same way, in our day-to-day life, even though we know Aham Brahmasmi, I'm not this body, we most often times forget this reality and relate our talk, our action to the way we relate to the things that are external. So being a Brahmana, being a Shudra, being a Vaishya, a Sannyasi, Grihastha, are all external things. And that is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu threw them away in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila. Say all of these things are external. They are as good as it allows us to develop our God consciousness, because that is the essence. So they are good if they give us the opportunity to remember Krishna. But if those things, even when it is given by Krishna himself, does not ignite our remembrance of Krishna, then it becomes useless. Just like the story I just shared, we all asked, who is a Bhakta? Raise your hand. And nothing ignites in our head immediately to know that the Guru was trying to understand our consciousness. But we forgot completely. We didn't connect. All of us were so eager to raise our hands as temple presidents. But when he talks about Bhakta, which is what took us to devotional service, we forget it completely. Because what we are considering as a Bhakta was somebody who is just yesterday boy who has come. But the ultimate goal of devotional service is to become Bhakta. So when we join devotional service, when we end devotional service, the whole purpose is to become a Bhakta. But we forget that so often. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing in the purport of this text. That the purpose of the temples, Krishna's emblems, the chakra, all of the manifestations of Krishna have only one purpose: just to remember Krishna. So whatever it is, whatever identity that we have, if they allow us, if they make us to constantly remember that we are supposed to be a devotee of Krishna, then they are valuable. Like Prabhupada will give an example: 1,000 zeros without a one behind it is useless. So everything in the world is useless without Krishna. It's only when Krishna is there that it becomes valuable. So whether it's a sannyasi ashram is good. Grihastha ashram is good. Whatever ashram, whatever identity we identify with is all good, as long as it helps us to remember Krishna. And that is the angle from which I'm coming from, because that's what the Prabhupada wants us to understand in the purport. And that is why Prabhupada has a very unique way of writing his purport. If you want to catch what Prabhupada intends to give in any particular purport, check the first sentence or the first two sentences and check the last two sentences of Prabhupada. In any of his purport, you get the message. So in this particular purport, Prabhupada is just emphasizing the purpose, why there is, because one thing is that we could easily be dissuaded by the pilgrimage or the holy places that Vidura was visiting. But those visiting of all of those holy places were narrated only for one purpose, to ignite our remembrance of the Lord. So we could get easily distracted by being focused on those holy places, minus the remembrance of Krishna. So that's why Srila Prabhupada gave the purpose, and that is the first sentence he was talking about, Chatuvaniya Maya Sheshtam. And in the end, he said, ultimately, they are all to energize, to ignite our remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Well, Hare Krishna. I hope Harichakra Prabhu is okay with your response. And
yeah, thank you very much, Salika. Thank you very much. And I can remember Guru Maharaj also said, you know, Guru Maharaj could have gone to India to leave his body.
Mm-hmm.
But he kept saying to us that I'm leaving my body in Gitanagi for you to know that here, this place is also a holy dam.
Yeah.
So he kept emphasizing that. He kept emphasizing that. So he purposely didn't go to India. He left his body here to bring our attention that whilst we are here, we should know that this is a place of pilgrimage and that we should get ourselves absorbed in Krishna. So thank you for the explanation. I mean, it's very enlivening the way you have explained all this. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Sitaram Pavane Vaishnavekyo Namo Namaha. Glorious is grace. Salika Prabhu ki.
Prabhupada ki.